In some of your courses at Bethany, you're going to be required to collect other students' ideas or opinions or their experiences by sending them a survey and having them respond to a survey. In this video, I'm going to show you a really quick and easy to use tool that's also free that you can use to create surveys that you can use on your classmates for different classes at Bethany. And that tool is Google Forms. Now to get to Google Forms, the easiest way to get there is to just type in forms.google.com into the search bar at the top of the page. That will take you to this page. Notice that the URL at the top of the page changes, and it's actually a part of Google Docs. It's docs.google.com/forms. The easiest way to get here, though, is just to enter forms.google.com and then go ahead and click on blank to start a blank form. Now for this activity, you're going to be creating a nonsense form, and that's what I'm going to be doing here. You can make it serious if you want to. If you know you're going to be creating a survey for one of your courses, maybe you want to actually go through the steps of creating that actual survey. It does need to be original for this assignment, so you can't use something that you've already made. And the goal here is to create a survey that has 3 different types of questions. That's the minimum. You have to have a minimum of 3 different types of questions. Now keep in mind what I'm saying. I'm not saying 3 questions. They all have to be a different type. So here's where we're going to start. First thing you're going to do is give your form a title. Again, I'm just going to create a simple form here that I'm making up for, and not actually going to be used. And mine is going to be titled, "What Pet Do You Prefer?" I'm going to go ahead and type the title on my survey here, and then I'm going to click up here in the upper left where the title of the actual form is in my Google Drive. When I click on that, it automatically fills in the title that I gave to my survey. If I want to, I can also type a form description. This is going to show up at the top of my survey. For longer surveys or surveys where it would benefit your respondents if you gave them some context, I would include a description for those. You're not required to for this assignment. But if I wanted to explain why I'm giving this survey or some rules for taking this survey, I would put that right here. All right, and then I'm going to create some questions. Notice that every form already has a default question added, and one thing you're going to learn in forms is when you want to work on editing a question, that means you can edit it, you can remove it, you can move it to a different spot. The thing that you need to do first to start working on that question is click on it. Once you click on a question, all of these other options for that question open up. For example, I could choose my type of question. Let me just quickly go through the question types with you so you know what you have available. Short answer questions are questions where you ask your survey respondents a question, and they get to type whatever they want to as an answer. You don't script their answers for them. A short answer only gives them a short blank for a response, though, so it implies that you're looking for a short response. A paragraph is the same sort of thing. You ask a question, your survey respondents have a longer text box for a response, so they expect that their answer could be a little longer. But it's the same thing where they get to type whatever they want to as a response. You don't script their responses. The next 3 options, you script responses for your respondents. So multiple choice, you ask a question, you give 4 scripted answers, or 3 or 5 or however many you choose, and your respondents choose the one response that fits for them. Keep in mind, for a multiple choice question, they have to choose just one response. If you want to give that kind of scripted question, but you want them to be able to select multiple responses, then you'd use checkboxes. For checkboxes, you give a prompt or a question. You list several potential responses for your respondents, and they can select as many as they want, as many as apply to them. Dropdown works basically the same way as multiple choice. It's just in a different format where you type a question or a prompt, and then there's a drop-down menu where your respondents get to select their response from. Keep in mind, there's this one you won't use on this survey, but you could include a file upload area where your respondents can upload a file. For instance, if I was comparing, I don't know, a bunch of resumes from potential job candidates and I wanted them all to upload their resume through the survey, I could have them do that here. A linear scale is basically the same thing as a multiple choice. It just assigns values to things. So this would be a question like, how much did you like this survey? 1, I hated it, to 5, I loved it. Mark anywhere in between. And then they would choose where on that scale they fell. Multiple choice grid is the same thing as a multiple choice question, just arranged differently. There's a grid of responses, and they choose the one response out of the grid that applies. And a checkbox grid is the same as checkboxes in a different format, where they get to select multiple cells in the grid that apply. So those are the options. The easiest ones to use, I would say, would be multiple choice questions, checkboxes, and short answers. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with a short answer question. All right, I'm going to type the text of my question. If you have a pet, what is your pet's name? Question mark. If you do not have a pet, type none. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit here about appropriate questions on a survey. You want to make sure when you write a question, you're very careful to ask so that you get unambiguous answers. In this case, this probably wouldn't happen, so I'm going to have to weigh the options here. What if one of my respondents had a pet whose name was actually none in all caps? Very unlikely, but if that happened, then I would have ambiguous responses. Now, this is sort of an out there example, like that's very unlikely to happen, but people ask survey questions a lot that have ambiguous answers where I'm trying to take a survey, but this one I could go either way on it. I'm not sure how to answer. That is the worst outcome of a survey when your respondents don't really know how to answer because multiple things apply. So you don't want to put them in that situation. However, here I'm pretty sure I'm safe. What I would see taking this survey would be the question and then a short blank for me to respond, and that's fine because giving out this survey, I don't expect anybody to have a really long, drawn-out responses. I don't need a paragraph. I just need a short answer blank. When it comes time to add a new question, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select from the new things that I can add. Notice the top option is to add a new question. Now, just to give you some ideas of other things, I could add in a title and description on my survey. What that does is it gives me the opportunity to give different sections of my survey more context or instructions. Okay, so this really only applies if you have more than one section to your survey. You might want to add a title for that section. Here I can add an image that makes my survey more appealing and my respondents might be more willing to take it. I can add a video with video instructions about how to take my survey. Or I could add a brand new section. The way that works is for each section of your survey, each section shows up on a different page as your respondents are taking your survey. So if I added a new section for the next question, on the first page of my survey would just be this one question. And then my next section would be however many other questions I put in that section. So let's say I put 2 questions in the next section. That means that my respondents would see an entirely different page with those 2 questions on it. I don't actually need a new section. Usually that's for longer surveys where you need to give your respondents context on the different parts. If I do add one, I can simply click here and choose to delete the section. If I had content in it, I could merge it with the above. That way I don't lose any of the questions. Because if I just delete it and it has questions in it, I will lose all the questions as well. I'm actually just going to delete it because it doesn't have any questions. And then I'm going to go back up here, choose to add a new question. Notice that it places my new question above the old one because that's where my cursor was when I added it. I'll remedy that in just a minute. First of all, I'm going to make this a checkbox question. No, let's do multiple choice first. I'm going to do a multiple choice question. And I'm going to say, what kind of pet do you prefer? Question mark. All right, and notice I just typed, I clicked and I typed in the question. I can click and type each of the responses as well. For option 1, I'm going to put cat, dog, guinea pig, mouse, hamster. I don't know. Trying to think of another common type of pet that people might have. Actually, this probably rounds it out pretty good. There's a lot of different things. Oh, maybe a bird. Now I'm going to try to keep this alphabetical so I'm not biasing my responses. People might think I'm a cat person if I put cat first. If I want to add a response above, I'm just going to click before cat and hit enter. That'll actually add a response after, but then I can go over here on the side, I can click and drag my responses around, and up here I'm going to change this to bird. So there we have it, 5 different responses that people can choose from. There's a lot more potential options in this, so I'm going to click down here to add an other response, just in case people choose that instead. And now this question is all set. There's 2 more things I want to point out here. You could choose to make some questions required. That means that in order to submit your survey, your respondents have to answer that question. That is actually a pretty good idea for some questions for some surveys. In this case, I'm going to leave this required because then I'm not going to get a blank response back on this one. This is actually the title of the survey, so I would have to include something. I might also want to include a none option here. I'm not going to do that because I'll assume people will put that under other. All right, if I click these 3 dots down here at the lower right hand corner, there's also some additional advanced options. The one that I want to point out is you could choose to go to a section based on an answer that respondents give in your survey. So let's say my first question was, do you have a pet? And it was yes or no. Based on the answer to that question, if people said no, I could skip a question about what the name of their pet is, right? So just keep in mind, sometimes it makes more sense for your respondents if you don't even show them questions that don't apply. And your respondents appreciate that. They're actually more likely to finish a survey if you don't ask them a bunch of questions that really have nothing to do with them. Now, I said I wanted this question to actually be the second question. I want this final question that's appearing to be the first. The way that I do, I'm going to click on this last question. Notice when I'm at the top of that question, my cursor changes to a 4-way arrow. If I click and drag that question, I can move it to a different spot in the survey. And there we are able to move that question back up to the top. All right, I'm going to add one more question. I'm going to click on this final question. I'm going to click to add a question, and unfortunately, oh, there it goes. It added a question to the very end. Before, I think, because I was clicked into the question, into the title, it added the question above. But it added it where I wanted it to. The last thing that I'm going to type as a question is, if you currently have a pet, what kind of pet is it? I'm going to see if people actually have the kinds of pets that they prefer to have. I don't want this to be multiple choice, so I'm going to choose to make this a checkbox. Maybe I'll change the wording here too to make it make more sense. If you currently have pets, what kinds of pets are they? Because now they can select multiple responses. I might even want to say here, please select all that apply. So that people know they can select more than one. And then here I'll probably just list the same things that I have up above. Dog, guinea, pig, mouse. And then I will give people a response for other as well. I probably wouldn't make this required because if they don't have a pet, they probably don't want to answer this question. And there we go. I've got a simple survey. I've explained to you a lot of the other tools that you could use in creating a survey. There's one other thing I want to show you for when your survey is finished. If you click over here on responses, this is where you'll be able to see the responses that students give to your survey. You'll see a number right next to responses that shows how many other respondents have taken your survey and finished it. And then this will list what all of their responses were. It does some metrics for you, so it shows you some graphs of how they responded. The important thing that I want to show you right now, though, first of all, there's 2 things right here. You can turn off your survey at any time, so you're not accepting or you are accepting responses. So after a certain date where you want the survey to close, you might just want to turn it off. The other thing I want to show you is this option right here to create a spreadsheet from your survey. If you click on that and create a new spreadsheet, it will take your survey and all of your responses and put them right into a spreadsheet for you so you can manipulate them using formulas, you can make graphs of them, all of the things that we've been doing in Excel, you can now do on the responses to a survey that your students gave. All right, one last little detail, and that is up here, you can choose this little icon to preview your survey and see what it would look like as students are taking it. So you can basically take your own survey here, like your respondents would be taking your survey. And this gives you a good idea whether or not it looks like you want it to, if certain things function in it like you expect them to. That's this feature that you should know about. And then the last thing you're going to need to do is submit your survey. So I'm going to go back into edit mode by clicking this little edit icon up here. And then to submit it, you're going to click send. And for this survey, you're going to send it to my email address. Okay, so you're going to type in kzimmerman@blc.edu. When you're finished typing that, go ahead and click send. Please do not send these practice surveys to the entire student body or to the faculty. Send it just to my email address. We have had students do both of those things in the past, and it's a little embarrassing for them. I would prefer if you just sent it straight to me and I will grade it. This is how you turn this assignment in. You just send it to me as a form. As always, please let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for tuning into this video. Have a great day.